Most men don't actually struggle with desire itself. They know what they want. They feel it deeply, sometimes with an intensity that surprises them. But the moment they try to express it, something inside them locks up. A voice in their head whispers warnings. What if she judges me? What if she thinks I'm selfish? What if I ruin the mood entirely? So they stay quiet, swallowing the words before they can escape. And slowly, imperceptibly, frustration begins to replace intimacy. The gap between what they feel and what they say widens until it becomes a chasm that neither partner knows how to bridge. But here is the truth that almost no one tells men directly. Healthy relationships don't avoid these conversations. They master them. And when done correctly, expressing what a man genuinely wants doesn't push a woman away. It pulls her closer. It deepens trust. It creates a level of emotional safety that makes everything else in the relationship flow more naturally. The problem is not the wanting. The problem is the expression. Many men fundamentally misunderstand where the difficulty lies. They assume the problem is what they say. They worry about the specific words, the precise phrasing, the perfect approach. But that is not the real issue. The real issue is how it is said and when it is said. A man can have the most reasonable desire in the world, but if his words feel like criticism, pressure, or demand, she will not hear desire. She will hear judgment. And once a woman feels judged in an intimate space, she does not open up. She shuts down emotionally. This is where most relationships quietly start losing their spark, not in dramatic arguments, not in betrayal, but in the slow erosion of emotional safety that happens when a man expresses his needs without awareness of how they land on her. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once observed that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, and this applies directly to these conversations. A man imagines she will reject him, judge him, or pull away. So he says nothing. He suffers the imagined rejection before it ever happens. But when he finally speaks, he often finds that his fears were greater than the reality. The key is learning to speak in a way that invites connection rather than creating distance. To understand why this matters so deeply, a man must first understand the psychology of desire and safety. For men, desire often feels physical and direct. It is straightforward. It is immediate. But for women, desire is deeply connected to emotional safety, comfort, and trust. This is not a flaw. It is not a game. It is simply how the female psyche is wired. If she feels safe, she becomes more open. If she feels evaluated, she becomes guarded. The emotional environment determines everything. So before a man even thinks about what to say, he must understand this fundamental truth. His tone creates the emotional environment, and that environment decides whether she leans in or pulls away. A man can say the most honest words in the world, but if his tone is tense, demanding, or anxious, she will feel that energy before she processes the content. She will sense that he is not speaking from a place of groundedness, but from a place of need. And need, as we have discussed before, repels. It does not attract. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If a man's thoughts are colored by fear of rejection or anxiety about her response, his soul reflects that. His energy becomes heavy, uncertain, and ultimately unattractive. But if his thoughts are colored by calm self-assurance, by the quiet knowledge that he is whole with or without her agreement, his energy becomes magnetic. And that energy creates the safety she needs to open up. One of the biggest mistakes a man can make is choosing the wrong moment to have these conversations. Many men wait until the moment is intense, emotional, and vulnerable, and then suddenly bring up what they want. They wait until they are already in bed, already caught up in the heat of the moment, and then they drop a request that feels jarring and out of place. That timing feels overwhelming to a woman. It feels like pressure. It feels like the moment is being hijacked. Instead, a wise man chooses a calm, relaxed moment. Maybe when they are talking casually, laughing together, or spending quality time without any physical expectation. This removes the pressure entirely and makes the conversation feel safe, not urgent. He might say something like, "I've been thinking about something, and I wanted to share it with you because I feel really comfortable with you." This immediately builds trust and emotional openness. It signals that he is not demanding anything. He is simply inviting her into his world. The difference between pressure and invitation is everything. Pressure creates resistance. Invitation creates curiosity. When a man approaches the conversation with a relaxed and open demeanor, he is telling her that he values her emotional experience as much as his own desire. And that alone creates the safety she needs to truly hear him. The fastest way to sound rude or off-putting is by telling a woman what she should do. That feels like instruction, not connection. It feels like she is being told how to perform rather than being invited to share something meaningful. Instead, a man should talk about his own feelings and experiences. This shifts the energy from control to vulnerability. For example, instead of saying, "You need to slow down more," he might say, "I really enjoy it when things feel a bit more slow and connected." One invites her in, the other pushes her away. The difference is subtle but profound. When a man speaks from his own experience, he is not making a demand. He is sharing a truth. And sharing truth, when done with empathy, creates intimacy. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we should not seek to have events happen as we wish, but to wish them to happen as they do happen. This applies here in a powerful way. A man cannot control how she responds. He cannot force her to feel the same way. But he can control how he expresses himself. He can choose to speak from a place of authenticity rather than demand. And when he does, he creates the conditions for genuine connection to flourish, regardless of the outcome. Intimacy is not a performance review. It is not a time for evaluation or critique. It is a shared space, a place where two people come together to explore and connect. When a man frames his desires as something he wants to explore together, it creates curiosity instead of pressure. For example, he might say, "I'd love for us to try something different together. I think it could feel really good for both of us." This makes her feel included, not judged. It frames the desire as a joint adventure rather than a unilateral request. Inclusion builds emotional intimacy. It tells her that her experience matters just as much as his. And when a woman feels that her experience matters, she is far more likely to be open, curious, and engaged. The philosopher Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that the goal of life is to live in agreement with nature. And human nature craves connection. It craves to be seen, heard, and included. When a man includes a woman in his desires rather than presenting them as demands, he is living in agreement with that nature. He is creating the conditions for genuine connection to thrive. Communication is not just about speaking. It is about listening and observing. A man must pay attention to her reactions. Does she seem open? Curious? Slightly hesitant? If she hesitates, he should not push harder. Instead, he should slow down and reassure her. We only do what feels comfortable for both of us. This reinforces respect and boundaries, which actually increases trust. When a woman knows that her comfort is a priority, she becomes more willing to explore. She becomes more open. The pressure is removed, and real connection can take its place. The philosopher Musonius Rufus, a Stoic teacher who profoundly influenced Epictetus, wrote that we should not use our words to command, but to persuade and to teach. And the greatest persuasion comes not from force, but from respect. When a man respects a woman's boundaries and listens to her cues, he is not weakening his position. He is strengthening it. He is showing her that he is a man of emotional intelligence, a man who can be trusted. And trust, as we have seen, is the foundation of everything. Without trust, desire withers. With trust, it flourishes. A subtle but powerful shift a man can make is to compliment before he expresses. Before sharing what he wants, he should acknowledge what he already loves. This prevents her from feeling like she is not enough. For example, he might say, "I love how connected we feel when we're together. It means a lot to me." Then, gently, he can add, "I was also thinking it could be exciting to explore something new together." This keeps her emotionally grounded while opening the door to growth. She does not feel like she is failing. She feels like she is being invited into something better. That is a completely different emotional experience. The philosopher Hierocles, a lesser-known Stoic, wrote that we should approach others as we would approach ourselves, with patience and understanding. When a man speaks to his partner with the same patience and understanding he would want for himself, he creates a space of mutual respect. And mutual respect is the soil in which desire grows. Here is something most men never fully realize. When a man expresses a desire, a woman might not just hear the request. She might hear a deeper question, one that she may not even articulate to herself. Am I not enough? That fear is quiet, but it is powerful. It lurks beneath the surface of many intimate conversations. So a man's job is not just to communicate desire, it is to protect her sense of worth while doing it. He must communicate that his desire is not a criticism of her, but an expression of his own wanting. This is what separates emotional maturity from emotional damage. A man who can express his desires while simultaneously reassuring her of her value is a man who understands the deep dynamics of intimacy. The Stoic philosopher Cleanthes, who succeeded Zeno as the head of the Stoic school, wrote that the fates guide the willing, but drag the unwilling. When a man is willing to have these difficult conversations with empathy and awareness, he is guided toward deeper connection. But when he is unwilling, when he lets fear dictate his silence, he is dragged into frustration and distance. A man does not need to be hesitant or overly careful. Confidence is attractive, but there is a difference between confidence and control. Confidence says, "This is what I enjoy, and I'd love to share it with you." Control says, "This is what I want, and it should happen." One builds attraction, the other creates resistance. The difference is in the energy behind the words. Confidence is grounded. It is calm. It does not need to force anything. Control is anxious. It is demanding. It cannot tolerate a different outcome. When a man speaks from confidence, he creates space. She can respond freely. She can say yes, she can say no, she can say maybe. All of those responses are acceptable because his sense of self is not on the line. But when he speaks from control, he creates pressure. She feels like she must respond a certain way to keep the peace. And that pressure kills desire. The Stoic philosopher Seneca observed that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. And when a man wastes his intimate moments by speaking from control rather than confidence, he is wasting the opportunity for genuine connection. He is filling the space with pressure instead of presence. What if she disagrees? This is where many men panic. They interpret disagreement as rejection. They take it personally. But if a woman is not into something a man suggests, it does not mean rejection. It means honesty. And honesty is the foundation of real intimacy. A man should respect her response. He should stay calm. And he should keep the emotional connection intact. Because forcing agreement damages trust far more than disagreement ever could. When a man can handle a no with grace, he demonstrates emotional maturity. He shows her that he values her honesty more than he values getting his way. And that is deeply attractive. It creates safety. It creates trust. And it makes her more likely to be open in the future. The philosopher Epictetus taught that it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When a woman says no, that is what happened. The man's reaction determines whether the connection grows or shrinks. If he reacts with calm acceptance, the connection grows. If he reacts with frustration, the connection shrinks. It is that simple. Most people think these conversations are about improving physical connection. But they are not. They are about building deeper trust, stronger communication, and emotional safety. When those three things exist, everything else naturally improves. Desire becomes easier, connection becomes deeper, and both partners feel seen. A man who can express his wants with empathy and awareness is not just improving his intimate life. He is building a relationship that can weather storms. He is creating a partnership where both people feel safe to be fully themselves. And that, more than anything, is what sustains love over the long term. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should be tolerant with others and strict with ourselves. When a man is strict with himself, when he holds himself to a standard of emotional awareness and communication, he becomes a man worth trusting. And when he is tolerant with his partner, when he receives her responses with grace, he becomes a man worth loving. Saying what a man wants is not rude. Saying it without awareness is. When a man combines honesty with empathy, his words do not create distance. They create connection. And in relationships, connection is what turns ordinary moments into something unforgettable. It is what transforms a conversation into an experience. It is what deepens desire into something that lasts far beyond the moment. The Stoic philosophers understood that true freedom comes from mastery of the self, and mastery of the self includes mastery of expression. A man who can express his desires without losing his center, without becoming demanding, without creating pressure, is a man who has achieved a rare form of freedom. He is free from the fear of rejection. He is free from the anxiety of silence. He is free to be fully himself with the woman he loves. And that freedom is what makes him irresistible. It is not about the specific desire. It is about the way he carries it. It is about the way he shares it. It is about the way he makes her feel safe enough to receive it. That is the art of intimacy, and it is a skill that any man can develop with practice, patience, and awareness. So the next time a man feels that pull of desire, that urge to express something he has been holding back, he should not swallow it. He should not silence himself out of fear. He should take a breath, ground himself, and speak from a place of love and confidence. Not because he expects a certain outcome, but because he values the connection, because he understands that true intimacy is built on honest expression, and because he knows that the man who can speak his truth with empathy is the man who will never have to chase. He will be chosen, he will be trusted, he will be loved, and that is the greatest win of all.